Fertility. This is Amanda and Kat, and we are so excited. We have Alyssa with us today from Fun with Fertility, and she is going to be talking to us about her termination for medical reasons, her multiple rounds of IVF, all of the genetic testing that she's had done, and just her entire story. So welcome, Alyssa.
Thanks. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you.
We're so excited. Yeah, we're so excited to have you. So first and foremost, because I know listeners love to stalk our guest before they listen. So your Instagram is at Fun with Fertility. Is that correct?
Yes.
Awesome. So check her out. Maybe look her up real quick. You share pretty much your whole journey from the beginning. Is that right?
I do. Yeah. I actually didn't start the Instagram until 2020, but my story goes back to, I guess, 2018, kind of before that, but it really starts in 2018. So I went back to the beginning and just put it all out there.
I love
that. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Well, I mean, that's a good segue. So do you want to start with kind of your fertility journey, in 2018 or even before that?
Yeah. Well, so my husband and I got married in 2013, but we were kind of young. We weren't even 30 yet. So we put off the whole baby thing for a while. We were like, we're going to have a couple years of it just being us and have fun. And I always thought that 28 sounded like a good age to start having, thinking about babies. And I think I just got it from, that's how old my mother was when I was born, and I'm the oldest, and that just sounded good to me. But when I got there, I was totally not in that frame of mind at that age. So I was like, well, let's just, put it aside for now. And when I got to 30, I said, no, I don't think so. So it wasn't till I got to 32 and I was like, I think now would be a good time. So my first stop was just to my OB, and I said, I'd been on birth control for years. I started when I was 18 in college on the pill. And I said, is there anything I need to do before going off the pill or anything like that? And she said, well, do you have any interest in doing genetic testing, just to see if you're a carrier for anything? And I think that this is something that all OBs, gynecologists should ask when somebody tells them, hey, I'm going to start trying to conceive. I think that that's a question that they should always ask.
Yeah, Alyssa, do you mind sharing where you live? Because I feel like that's so rare for an OB to just right off the bat do that, but I agree with you.
Yeah, I live in North Carolina. So I'm right outside of Raleigh. So my OB is in Raleigh itself.
That sounds like an awesome OB. I mean, that's
yeah. So there's actually, so I'm Ashkenazi Jewish, and there's actually a specific Jewish panel of diseases that they test for, because we just tend to be carriers for a lot of diseases, unfortunately. So that was one of the reasons why she asked me. She knew that she knew my background. So it was just a cheek swab. So I said, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, that's so
no reason to say no, in my opinion. She said, probably you'll come back with nothing, but at least you'll know. But I did come back as a carrier for something, and they said, okay, so if you come back as a carrier for something, then they test your partner and see if he's a carrier for the same thing. Which again, they said it's probably not going to happen. The odds of you both being a carrier for the same thing is very rare. Well, you know where this is going, right? They tested my husband, and we were a carrier for the same thing. So
isn't that crazy? Like, what are the chances?
Yeah, very, very low, especially since my husband's only half Jewish. Wow. So we figured it wasn't going to happen.
I'm sure you were like, yeah, no, it's fine. But that's
so the doctor was
tested, because I feel like so many people don't do this part.
Right. Yeah. So we found out, and this was information that we had. So they sent us to meet with a genetic counselor who told us our options were, we could get pregnant and then do genetic testing on the fetus to see if it was affected. We could do IVF and test the embryos, and or we could skip the whole thing and adopt. So the chances were, the odds were in our favor, right? So simple genetics, if mom and dad are both a carrier, and so then the baby has a 50% chance of also being a carrier for the disease, a 25% chance of having the disease, and a 25% chance of not even being a carrier. So a 75% chance of being healthy. So with those odds, we figured, well, I guess we're just going to try and see what happens and do the testing. So
And
so after that, our first,
can I ask? So
yeah.
I absolutely don't. You don't need to share what you guys tested positive for carriers. But was it like a life-threatening genetic disorder, or was it something that, like, can they tell you?
They can. Oh yeah. They it's something called Joubert syndrome. So it is something that we had never heard of, and actually my doctor had never heard of it either. She had to look it up.
Oh, wow.
And it's not a fatal condition. It's not like Tay-Sachs is kind of the most known of those diseases. That's a fatal diagnosis, but it has a fairly long list of both mental and physical potential disabilities
Sure.
that go along with it. So it's not great.
Yeah, that's really scary. That's a really scary position to be put in. But again, I mean, I would have chosen the exact same thing. 75% chance. There's no, he's not a carrier. He or she's not a carrier or affected. Absolutely. I know for me, after our third miscarriage, they did what you did from the beginning. They're like, hey, let's genetically test you. And I remember, I mean, isn't it like 250 different things come back like for that
It's
they
a
test
lot.
for?
And then once we had that first one come back with something, then they did the more intense testing, which requires the blood draw, and that's a even longer list of things that it tests for. And fortunately, neither one of us was a carrier for anything else.
Well, that's
Awesome.
I mean,
Sorry.
at least that, it wasn't more than not just the one, because that's still so scary, but
Right.
multiple.
Yeah, it wasn't more than one thing. So,
so at this point, you're like, okay, we're geared up, we're ready to go, we're going to start trying.
Yes. And then, so I went off the pill and nothing happened. Period did not show up. So I actually have my own diagnosis that I have something called congenital adrenal hyperplasia, which is another somewhat rare disease. It's actually not as rare as people think it is. It's just very underdiagnosed. A lot of people who actually have CAH get misdiagnosed with PCOS, which I call CAH kind of a cousin of PCOS. They have a lot of similarities, but the actual diagnosis itself is very different. So I have that, and one of the potential side effects. So we figured that was the cause of my period not showing up, despite me having my period regularly before going on the pill. But at this point, I'd been on the pill for 14 years.
Yeah.
So
that's the product of our generation. Like anybody that's now in their 30s that was just something they did. Like 16, 17, 18. Here you go.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was great in college. I didn't have to worry about, it being a situation I didn't want to be in.
Yeah,
so
sure.
And after that, and even when we got married but we weren't ready to have a kid yet. So we went to my endocrinologist and he put me on a steroid to see if that would help kind of jumpstart my system and cause me to ovulate and get a period and everything. Well, again, we were waiting and nothing happened. So we had started with the fertility clinic. My OB, again, when my period didn't show up, she sent me, knowing I had this diagnosis, she sent me straight to the fertility clinic. So I also didn't have to do that like 6 months to a year of trying before getting referred to the fertility clinic. My doctor did it right away.
Again, awesome doctor.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
Absolutely. She's the best. So I was already working with the fertility clinic and my period wasn't showing up, and so it was the fertility doctor who worked with my endocrinologist to put me on the steroid, which was dexamethasone, which I know others in the fertility community have been on this, and plenty of people have been on it without any issues at all, but I hated it.
Really?
It was so bad for me. I had the worst side effects.
I have never heard of it before.
Yeah. What are some of the side effects? I can only imagine, like, probably like, I'm not even going to go try to make them up.
Yeah, no, I was, and I found out way later, this is jumping like 4 years into the, like, well, 2 or 3 years into the future. I found out later that my endocrinologist had put me on a very high dosage of it. And that was part of my problem, even though it was only 1 milligram. So that tells you how strong this drug is.
Oh
Wow.
my goodness, that is insane.
It was crazy, but I gained a ton of weight. I was just swollen everywhere.
Which is like the worst feeling ever.
That was the worst of it. Like, I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize myself.
Oh, that's horrible, Alyssa. I'm so sorry. Especially because you're,
Yeah.
obviously wanting a baby and that's stressful in itself. And then to now look at yourself and like you don't feel confident in your skin or whatever it may be, that's so hard.
Yeah, it was really hard. So then again, nothing was happening. So I was like, what is going on? And then finally, I went to the bathroom one day and saw a little bit of blood. And I was like, oh, thank God. I
Yeah.
called the fertility clinic right away and said, can you see me tomorrow? And they said, yeah, come in tomorrow morning. And I went in. So they went to do the baseline ultrasound to see what was going on. And I was pregnant.
Wow.
Wait, so okay, hold on. Back up just a second. So at this point, because I know, like, I'm sure as all of us, as women, we've done this probably like 100 times. I know I have. But like, take a million pregnancy tests. Like, if I'm like even like a day late, think, okay, maybe this is it. I'm pregnant. Like, at any of this point, did you think possibly you could be pregnant or no?
Absolutely not, because I had no idea that the steroid had worked because I hadn't gotten a period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that was like the shock of a lifetime.
absolutely. And then after I found out, I realized, okay, these symptoms that I'd been assuming were side effects from the steroid were not. They were symptoms of being pregnant.
Sure. Oh my
But
gosh.
I had never been pregnant, so I had no idea.
Oh,
Of
yeah.
course.
I mean, yeah, you wouldn't know. I wouldn't know either.
Okay, so they do
Yeah.
this baseline scan and they're like, you're pregnant.
Yeah, my response was when the doctor said that, my extremely eloquent response was, what?
You're like,
Because at that point, this was my first, like, it might have been my first, transvaginal ultrasound. So,
Sure.
at this point, I feel like I can look at an ultrasound and I know exactly what I'm looking at. But back then, I had no clue.
yeah, sure. I mean, of course.
So
Wait,
how far
I
along
was
were
gonna say,
you?
how far along were you?
6 weeks.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, crazy.
So I, just out of coincidence, my parents were visiting that week and I had taken that day off from work. So it was no big deal for me to go to the doctor. And then from the doctor, I drove straight to my husband's office with the little ultrasound picture printed out in my hand. And then when I got there, he was on a conference call. So like I texted him and I was like, hey, can you come outside? And he was like, no.
Hey, what are you doing here? Right? That'd be my
Yeah. Well, he knew I'd been to the doctor. So he was like, okay, what happened?
Yeah.
So we did that. So then I was pregnant and everything was good. And so then the genetic testing they do is you have to wait until at least 12 weeks because the CVS procedure, chorionic villi sampling.
Yeah, you had a CVS. I mean, that's invasive.
Yes. So what they do is they go in and take through the cervix if they can. They actually do an ultrasound first to see where the placenta is, and if they can get to it via, cervically, or if they have to go in abdominally. And fortunately, they were able to just go in cervically, and they kind of use a catheter to take off a chunk of the placenta.
Oh, wow.
And pull it out, and they put it in a test tube, and that's what they send out for testing because the placenta has all the genetic information in it. So that's why they can't do it any earlier, because the placenta needs to be big enough for them to go in and get a chunk of it. And it really isn't big enough for them to do that until you're about 12 weeks along. So they did that, and then it was a very long 2-week wait.
I was gonna say, so I work in high risk maternal fetal medicine, and
Oh yeah, that's
we
where
do
this
it
was
all the
done.
time. And I was gonna say the wait is the worst. I mean, I know you're so lucky. I think 90% do go through the abdomen, and that's awesome.
Really?
Yeah, that's awesome. At least from what I've seen. So that's awesome. But that wait to get the results is
It was terrible. So then the day, this is 2018. So September 2018. And you guys are in South Carolina, right?
I'm in North
I'm in South. Yeah,
Oh,
Amanda's
okay.
in North.
So you remember, September 2018 was Hurricane Florence.
Mm-hmm.
So because of the impending hurricane, I was actually working from home this day, which of course in 2018 was a weird thing. It didn't happen very often,
Yeah.
but I was. My husband had gone to the office, but my office, I think, had closed because they were concerned about power lines going down and things like that because of the winds. And I had been lazy. I had taken advantage of working from home. I didn't get up and take a shower. I got up and did some work, and then I took a break and I went and took a shower around 11:30. And when I got out of the shower, there was a voicemail on my phone, and it was the genetic counselor. And the voicemail said, "Call me back when you're somewhere private."
Oh gosh, that's like the worst thing to hear.
It
ever.
is.
Yeah,
That's
so
a
my
weird way
heart
to
just
do it.
dropped because I mean, I knew what that meant.
Yeah, immediately your mind is going straight to worst case scenario.
Exactly. So I called her back and she said, I'm so sorry. I know this wasn't, the outcome we were expecting or what we wanted, but the baby does have Joubert. She was like, is termination what you guys are still want to do? Because that was what we had said originally, but we didn't think we would ever actually have to make the choice.
Follow through, yeah.
And
Mhm.
at this point, you're 14, 15 weeks pregnant.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So I said, well, I have to talk to my husband. I'll call you back. And she said, yeah, of course. And by this time it was noon, so I knew my husband had gone to lunch. So I called him, and all I could say was that I talked to the genetic counselor's name is Emily, and I just said I talked to Emily. And I just burst into tears, and he said, I'm coming home right now.
Mm.
So then we had to talk about it, and we hadn't changed our minds. It was still, what we felt was the right decision.
Sure.
So I called, the counselor back, and she arranged everything. So, and then of course, so in North Carolina, there's a 72-hour waiting period that they call you and kind of read you whatever it is the paper says about, going through this process. And then you have to wait 72 hours. So the earliest, this was on a Thursday, and they could not get me in until Tuesday was the earliest. Partly because of the 72 hours, and partly because, because of the hurricane, they'd pushed people's procedures out. They'd canceled everything one day and pushed them out one day. So we couldn't even do Monday because Friday's procedures had been moved to Monday.
Yeah.
And it's just like you're carrying this child, and I can't even, oh my goodness.
Yeah. It was so over the weekend, and I told my husband beforehand, I was like, tell them I just don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Don't ask me how I'm doing, nothing, just we're not going to talk about it.
I think and I haven't had to go through that same experience, but having a DNC or being told, after you've heard the heartbeat and being told you have to, it's not a viable pregnancy. I've had to wait over the weekend, and it's just something that you and your partner have to go through together. It's just bizarre because you can say, I mean, all three of us can say 90% of families have not had to go through that together. And it's a really, really unique and sad and bonding experience because you have to be on the same page about such a big decision.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that was, one good thing about it was that my husband and I were both on the same page about it always, beginning to end, that we always agreed, what the best decision was for us.
Yeah. Do you feel like I know you said you like met with your in-laws and stuff. Did they have opinions about it? I know you told them not to talk about it. So I just know, just going through things, obviously there's always an outsider has some kind of opinion, or did you feel like you went through that at all, or no?
Oh, sure. No, fortunately, both of our families were
Really supportive.
super supportive.
Amazing. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually my parents live in New York, and my mom, when I told her, what had happened and what we were going to be doing, she flew down.
That's awesome.
She wanted to be here. So
that's so sweet.
yeah, it was really nice. So we went, so it was at UNC, which is it's a really nice hospital and everything. And it was supposed to be this 1-day procedure. They weren't even going to put me out, just give me like the IV drugs and do the D&E. And it was supposed to be no big deal. But my cervix didn't get the memo. Essentially.
Yeah.
So,
did they give you side attack? Is that, and I know there's multiple names for it, but.
Yep, they did. So they did that, and it was just supposed to, which originally they gave it to me orally.
Yeah.
Which I thought was so strange.
I've heard that doesn't work as well because it gets absorbed a little bit more. Yeah. Unfortunately.
It did not work.
Yeah. Did you have to go through that, Amanda?
Did
you? Yeah. I mean, I wasn't in the hospital doing it, but that was.
Did it work for you?
Yeah, but I had to do like 4 pills, and then 8 hours or 12 hours later, another 4 pills, and it was vaginally. It wasn't orally.
I did do a vaginally one. I never did an oral one.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, it was. I've heard of it not working, and I've heard of it not working when you're further along. So that's probably in your situation, because I was 10 weeks when we did it at home.
Okay. Yeah. So they did that, and you give it time to work, and then, you go in and they set up, they put the IV in and they do the whole thing. And she couldn't get my cervix dilated. So then that was when they did, they put in the dilators.
Oh gosh.
The osmotic dilators that they look like little pieces of little Twizzlers.
Oh my god.
Because they're like red and with like twisted wires, and they insert them. And I think the way it works is they're called osmotic dilators. I think because they like gather the water from your body and expand. So it's supposed to help open things up.
Now, are you on like pain meds or anything at this point?
They had given me the IV drugs to do the dilation, but then it wasn't working. So they put the things in, and I forget how many hours they left me there to wait for them to work.
Which
it's just so not.
Oh my gosh, it's like so not fair. You're already having to go through obviously the most heartbreaking thing that no parent ever wants to go through. I mean, it's literally devastating. You're losing a child, right? And now to like suffer through hours of like waiting, this like impeding thing that's like, oh my goodness, I cannot even. That is devastating.
Yeah. So we had to wait a few more hours, and then we tried again, so they, did the whole setup again and gave me more drugs, the whole thing. And she tried to take the dilators out, and they would not budge.
Oh my goodness.
They were not coming out.
At this point, is it too late to put you to sleep?
Put me under.
Right?
I don't want to know what's happening. I would be like, give me all the drugs.
Yeah. So the doctor said, okay, well, there's one more thing we can maybe try. Let me go make a phone call and see. And my husband told me later that he could tell by I couldn't see because I was lying down, but he could tell from the look on her face that she was not optimistic. Oh. And a few minutes later, she came back and said, so you're going to have to come back tomorrow morning and like go into the OR, and we're going to have to like put you under and do this.
You're like, do it now. Why couldn't they do it right then? I'm like, I'm not coming back. Like,
I know. Yeah. So they gave me more of the side attack and sent me home.
Oh my gosh.
And the next morning, she called my husband at like 6:30 in the morning and said, we've got an OR. Can you be here in an hour? And
horrible.
Yeah. So it was a 2-day process.
Wow.
I'm so sorry. That's I appreciate you being so open and talking about it, because it's not, it's not just something that just like happens in an hour and you go home.
No, not at all. It was not what I was expecting. And, honestly, I'm very pro-choice, and I always thought to myself, like, if I was ever in a situation where I got pregnant and I was not in a good place to have a baby, that would be what I would do. And I would deal with that. But when you think of that, you never think that you're going to be in a situation where you're going to terminate a pregnancy that you do want.
And that you worked so hard for, and you waited years for. And I mean, clearly you just told your whole story of getting up to that point. You guys were ecstatic.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Everyone was so excited, and our families were excited. I'm the oldest in my family, and my husband's an only child. So there were, no grandchildren. We're the first one. My sisters were going to be aunts, and, everyone was just crazy happy about it. And then, it came, basically all came crashing down in one phone call.
Yeah. So I'm sure it took a while to heal from that.
We took more than a 6-month break from the whole thing.
Of course. Rightfully. I mean, I can't even.
Physically, mentally, emotionally, all of
that.
that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you need to. So then after that, we decided, well, we're going to do IVF now.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Like, I don't want to chance having to go through that again.
Exactly. Yeah. So we went through this process of creating, so the testing for specific genetic markers is called PGTM.
Yes.
I think is what the terminology is now.
Yeah, so which is different than the PGTA, right? Yes. Which is like what what I did and what Amanda did, just to say like, hey, are these original? They don't test as in detail. Is that correct?
Yeah. So for PGTM, so what we had to do was they have to create these things that they call genetic probes. So it involved getting blood from me and my husband, and then they also collected saliva samples from my parents and my in-laws.
Oh, interesting.
And they used all of the genetic information from all of us to put together these genetic probes, which I am not scientifically minded enough to know exactly how they work, but it's a process to get them made. And to do that with IVF, you need to go through all that process and have the lab say, okay, we've got them, they're done, before the clinic will start.
And did that take a few months? Because I remember my clinic talking to us about this before, but how long did that process take to actually make the markers? Do you remember?
It took at least a month.
Okay.
It was a little while, because I remember us going through that whole process over the summer, and then we didn't start IVF until September.
Okay, yeah.
So it was a month or two. So then we do IVF, and my doctor said, okay, well, you've got the CAH, but, they did all my blood work. All of my hormones were normal. My AMH was fine. So she said this shouldn't be a big thing. It should go fine. Yeah. But I ended up having to stim for like 2 weeks. My follicles were just not growing. Yeah. It took a while to get there. And then the first egg retrieval, they got 4 eggs.
Oh man.
Wow.
And I was like,
you're like, my AMH is fine. What's going on? Like, why?
Yeah. Well, and all my ultrasounds, had shown way more follicles than that.
Oh, that's so discouraging.
So not at all as I was expecting. That they had absolutely given me way too much anesthesia, because I was like so out of it and crazy. I was acting like I was kind of drunk, and I remember the doctor came in, and actually, I'm not sure if I actually remember this or if my husband has just told me that when the doctor came in and said they only got 4 eggs, and he was like, I'm really sorry. I don't know why. And I just said something stupid like, well, can't you like go back and see if you can get more?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, sure though. You're like, I had so many follicles. Like, you clearly missed some. What are you doing?
Yeah, like just, can I like just do another trigger shot and we can try again tomorrow? And I was
Yeah,
like,
right.
no, no, it doesn't work like
Didn't work
that.
like that. Yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh. So how many of those 4 fertilized?
So they all fertilized.
Wow.
That's great.
So we were like, okay, this is good.
Promising.
Day 3, everything is still good. Then we get to day 5 and they tell me, well, 2 of them are maybe still going. I was like, okay. And then we'd actually gone to we always go apple picking in the mountains, like out to the Asheville area
Oh, fun.
in the fall. So that was our weekend away. So then they called us back the next day when we were out and said, there's one that is still kind of hanging in, but it's not at the blastocyst stage yet.
And are you on day 7 at this point? Or
This is day 6.
okay.
So then the next morning was day 7, and I got the call that it was over. The last one didn't make it either.
Wow.
My God.
So they got 4 eggs. They all fertilized, but none of them made it.
Made it to blast.
Yeah.
What, my goodness. And that week, I mean, all of us have been there. Like, it's just agonizing. It really is. And especially you're like, okay, we're at day 5, maybe. I mean, I remember we had the same exact situation happen where then it was like day 5, we're like, okay, they're like maybe 1. And then day 6, they're like, okay, there's still hope. And then, day 7, they're like, yeah, no, sorry, none.
Well, and when it's your first cycle, you have no idea.
Yeah.
And coming from a place of not having like infertility, you guys are doing the genetic testing. And that was the same for me. We were doing it for reoccurrent loss, and we ended up with 1. And we're like, what the heck? Like 1?
Yeah. So that's why, I mean, now I think, doctors should never say things like that. They should never say like, oh, this should be a breeze. We'll get, whatever.
I went into my egg retrieval and they were like, oh, we should get like, like 7 eggs. Like he like literally told me like how many. Obviously we come out with way less. And I mean, it's so discouraging because then you're like, he's the doctor. Of course I'm going to like,
right.
what he's telling me. And then it's only hits, I feel like, so much harder.
Yeah, they really need to be better at managing expectations. Like it was only until, my first cycle failed that the doctor said, well, the first cycle usually doesn't work.
That's exactly, the same thing. They're like, well, we'll set another round. You'll get better results. And I'm like, I don't know if I believe you.
The first round, yeah.
Right. Well, I feel like you would have, again, managing expectations. If you tell us right up front, you're probably going to have to do more than 1 cycle. That just would have been helpful, I think.
For sure.
So, but then my doctor had a bunch of ideas for how to change for round 2. So we said, all right, well, we'll try it. So we jumped straight into round 2. Change things up because that's what you do. And again, went through egg retrieval. It was the day after Thanksgiving. That was my egg retrieval. And they got 5.
That's so frustrating.
I was so annoyed. I could not believe it. And again, the doctor said, I don't know why we didn't get more than that.
So frustrating.
So, and then out of those 5, only 1 of them fertilized.
What? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I think
it was even worse than the first time.
That's what I was going to say. I think that's the worst when you're like, okay, well, I got 1 more egg, and then all of a sudden in 24 hours, you're like, whoa. And I mean, I love that you said it was the day after Thanksgiving because people don't like realize like this happens during life. And I'm sure like your Thanksgiving was miserable.
Well, Thanksgiving was actually great. I mean, I love Thanksgiving. It's my favorite holiday. And the food is so good. And I mean, I was feeling, kind of bloaty and stuff, how it is right before they take them out. But again, I was optimistic and, my mother-in-law, found the wishbone from the turkey and gave it to me and my husband. And we had that cute little thing. But then again, so, the first time I feel like they gave me too much anesthesia. So the second time, because it was the day after Thanksgiving, we were the last procedure of the day. They were shutting down. They were only working in the morning. and they definitely wanted us to get out as soon as possible. And they did not drug me well enough. I was in pain.
Oh gosh, I'm so sorry.
So that was irritating. That we could tell, like, when the anesthesiologist came around to, like, take out my IV and everything, like, he was already back in his jeans. He was ready to go.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
I would have been like, yeah, no.
So clearly they wanted to get us to go ASAP so they could close up. So not the best experience in the end, but again, so then we got the one fertilized and nothing, didn't turn into blastocyst, so we still had nothing.
Like 2 rounds in and you can't even get to the PGTM testing.
Right. Yeah, we haven't even gotten that far. Forget getting to a transfer.
Oh
Yeah.
So then we didn't know what to do. We took a little bit of a break.
Because at this point, it's what? You're in 2019 or you're
So now this is the end of 2019.
Yeah.
So, then, we get into the beginning of 2020 and we all know what happened then. So there was, a period of time where we were doing nothing because the clinics were closed. And which is, it's so frustrating when you can't do anything.
You can't do anything. And like in your situation and actually all 3 of our situations, like we know we can conceive naturally. So then you're like, it's just a different type of pressure. I feel like you have to just be so controlled of like, okay, this is what I'm going to have to do and I have to wait.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then, my husband was really against doing another round of IVF which can't blame him.
Oh yeah.
We'd done 2 rounds and come up with nothing.
And it's
so
expensive. I mean, I'm not sure if you guys, your insurance covers it, but I mean, it's
oh no.
the financial side of it alone is
yeah. And we're, I'll admit that we're super privileged to have been able to do it, and our parents helped us out, and we have good jobs because there was no fertility coverage at all. And we have good insurance. They just choose not to cover it because they don't have to.
Oh, I get it. So
yeah, everybody knows. So, I mean, it's one of the worst things about this country, that and the terrible maternity leave policy, by which I mean there isn't one. So
exactly.
So when they finally opened back up, okay. So this is the other big thing. So through all this time, when doing the egg retrievals and everything, I have not gotten my period once.
Wait, what? Still?
Yeah. And after an egg retrieval, you get your period, right?
Because you've ovulated. And I don't even know how to say this the right way, but it's almost like, okay, that it's over, and like my body can restart, and I'm getting all like the medicines and everything, like because the lining is so different than just a natural cycle at that point.
Yeah. So nope, never happened. I would get the symptoms of having my period, like getting the headache, the hormone headache and stuff like that, but no blood. And the doctor at the fertility clinic had no clue why. She couldn't figure it out. It made no sense.
Could they see if you were ovulating? Like, could they see any, like, I mean,
well, I guess,
you went through the
egg retrieval.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, without the egg retrieval, fine, I didn't get a period. I don't necessarily ovulate on my own. But after the egg retrieval, not getting a period is super weird.
Mm-hmm.
So weird, yeah.
So, so then we did a couple rounds of induced ovulation, just figuring we were going to take our chances with the genetics. But it didn't work. We did 2 or 3 rounds, and I never got pregnant.
Did they give you any like statistics of like, okay, so you had one child that, ended up having it, and like for a second one, does it decrease your chances of the baby having the same genetic?
It doesn't. Every single time it's the exact same odds. It's always 75-25.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my father is a statistician, and, he's a math guy. So he tried to be like, make us feel better. Like, oh, well, statistically your odds go down. It's like, well, usually that's the case, but genetics doesn't work like that.
Sure, yeah.
But then we didn't have to worry about it because it didn't work. So, at this point we get up to the summer of 2020. And finally, my doctor says, I have an idea. Why don't you see this other doctor who is more knowledgeable about CAH than I am, also local. So I said, all right. So we met with him, and we didn't like him much. He was very, very much like that stereotypical kind of arrogant doctor type.
Yep.
But when I told him about like not getting the period or anything, he said, the whole story. He said, that's not right. There's something going on in your body that shouldn't be. And so he suggested doing a saline sonogram to check things out, which I had never been done before.
Okay.
So, but of course, since, we thought he was like this weird guy, we went back to the other clinic and said, hey, can you do this? So they did the saline sonogram, and it was awful. It was really tough.
Is this the HSG or the SHG? Do you remember? They're kind of the same. I think the SHG, which is like this, it's a little bit more invasive and painful.
Mm-hmm. No, this was just the saline sonogram, so it shouldn't have been a big deal. But again, my cervix didn't feel like cooperating. So it was not good. It was almost traumatic. Like it brought me back to having the D&E.
Yeah.
And of course, because it was COVID, I was in there by myself. My husband wasn't there.
Oh my goodness. They wouldn't let him back with you?
No, they wouldn't let him in the building at all.
Oh gosh.
And he hadn't even gone with me. I'd driven myself because it was supposed to be no big deal.
Yeah.
So it was terrible, but they found nothing. So I said, well, all right, I guess everything's okay. So we kind of continued. But then what ended up happening was I was emailing with my doctor and like calling her and stuff like that. And sometime around midsummer, she just stopped responding to me. She just ghosted me.
What? Your doctor?
Yeah.
Did she like leave practices? Like, I'm like, what?
No, she just stopped answering my emails and stopped calling me back. She just disappeared.
Is this a private clinic or is this through Duke or
private?
UNC? Private. Okay.
This was a private one. Yeah. So we're like, well, I guess we're going to go back to the other clinic, which was UNC.
And this is the doctor that was like kind of.
Yeah. So I went back. I ended up calling him back and he said, hey, what happened? Did you have a saline sonogram? And I said, yeah, I had it. And they didn't find anything wrong. And he said, no, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
That's not right. I'm scheduling you for a hysteroscopy.
Okay. Yep.
So I said, okay. I went in for hysteroscopy, again, something else that had never been done to me before.
Mm-hmm.
And almost as soon as that doctor got the camera in, they hit a wall.
Really? Like, what do you?
I had scar tissue covering my cervix.
From the
D&E, probably.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
So the doctor broke through the scar tissue and blood just came pouring out.
So it'd been like piling up, basically.
Yep.
What has happened?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Because I had gotten my period after each egg retrieval, so at least twice, but the blood was blocked. It had nowhere to go.
Healthy, just sitting there.
I have never heard of that. I mean, I've heard of scar tissue of your cervix, but like, oh my goodness. Okay, so now you love the doctor.
I know. Yeah. My favorite person ever figured it out.
So it was like, oh my God.
What a relief. What an absolute relief.
And it is still a complete mystery how the other clinic managed to miss it.
Yeah.
No clue how that is possible that they missed it. But so that was that solved.
Yeah, which is like incredible that he figured that out. That's
right. Wow. So that explained why, with all the times, like the timed like induced ovulation and time sex, why I never got pregnant, because when your cervix is blocked, it's not going to happen.
It's not going to go. Yeah, exactly.
So we ended up, so he said, okay, well, we can do induced ovulation, or we can try IVF again. And let me tell you, I had a time convincing my husband to do round 3.
I'm sure.
It was a tough sell.
Yeah.
But I said, I had talked to the doctor. I said, look, here's what we've done in the past. What would you do that's going to be totally different?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're not going to do the same thing again. Obviously, that would be dumb.
Yeah.
So his idea was we did like the Lupron down regulation. So we did that for 3 weeks. And then he switched up the meds a little bit after that. And then by then I was, deep into the Instagram community and, made some friends and learned, done a ton of my own research and become much more knowledgeable. And so I insisted on adding the Omnitrope. The doctor said, I asked him about it and he kind of said, he didn't really believe that it had any use, but he was like, it's not going to hurt anything if you want to do it.
Yeah.
So my thought was, I'm just going to try everything.
Oh yeah.
We're going to do it. We're going to do it all, because if it doesn't work, I don't want to have to say, well, what if I had done whatever?
And then you're like, oh, I got to do another 4th one. At that point, you're probably like, absolutely not.
And I'm
sure my husband, that was our,
yeah.
I mean, we made a deal, a very serious deal.
Like, that the last one, I promise.
This is the end. This is all we're doing. And so then go into my 3rd egg retrieval, and my thinking was, okay, if I can get 10, we can get 10 eggs, I will be so thrilled. They got 21.
Oh my gosh, that's insane.
Were you so mad at the previous? I mean, because what I'm thinking about is the D&E was before your IVF cycle, so I'm wondering if even that had some impact on the number of eggs you had.
Oh, it might have, absolutely.
So, like, okay, congratulations, that's awesome.
Yeah. So the first clinic had just started saying, like, well, your egg quality must be bad, because they just had no other ideas.
Yeah. Wow.
So 21. So I was like, so that was double what I was hoping for.
I knew it was in there.
It was amazing. And then how many? Then we got 13 fertilized.
Wow. That's awesome.
So we're like, all right, we're getting somewhere.
Yeah, for sure.
So we ended up with 4 embryos.
Woohoo! Which is the furthest you've been.
Yeah. So we finally had something to send off for the testing.
Yep.
So then after testing, we ended up with 2. So one of them was affected with the Joubert, and then one of them just had a chromosomal abnormality, because they did the PGT-A testing as well, because you might as well do do all of it.
Yeah.
So we had 2.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, so we transferred the first one. So this was crazy, because it was my first time doing a transfer, even though it was my 3rd IVF cycle.
Yeah,
exactly.
So it worked. And I was pregnant. So everyone was so thrilled, because we knew that it was a normal embryo, and
tested, everything's great.
Yep, everything was going to be perfect. It was all going to be fine. Mm-hmm. Went to the 6-week ultrasound, everything was good. 8-week ultrasound. So the clinic set me free after the 8 weeks.
Graduated.
Yep, graduate. So then I didn't have another appointment until 11 weeks at my regular doctor. And I go in and, we do the exam, but then she pulls out the Doppler to listen to the heartbeat. And she says, if we can't find the heartbeat with the Doppler, I'll just pull out the ultrasound. Don't worry, it happens.
Yeah.
So she couldn't find the heartbeat with the Doppler, pulled out the ultrasound, still nothing. So she sent me back to, because they have those little ultrasounds that they just kind of like wheel in on a cart.
Yeah, the portable ones.
That are not great quality. So she sent me to get a legit ultrasound, the transvaginal. And my embryo was still measuring at 8 weeks, and the heartbeat was gone.
I'm so sorry.
So sorry.
And again, it was still, so by now we're in mid 2021. but they're still not letting me bring someone with me to the appointment. So I'm by myself again.
Gosh.
Oh my, this is so sad. Like, your spouse should be able to be in there with you, especially when you're
Yeah.
getting news like that. Like that, you should not have to do that alone.
Yeah. And I feel like I can resonate from like the fact of like graduating from the fertility clinic and like thinking you're like almost like we announced when we graduated from the fertility clinic and it was the same time as yours. I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah. We hadn't, fortunately. I mean, only our families knew. But then I got back out to my car. As soon as I got in the car, I just screamed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, right.
Don't blame me.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And then had to call my husband and tell him what happened.
So you're reliving it right then again, having to share that.
Yep. So then
literally, how did you drive home? Like
I don't know. I think I was probably just like on autopilot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Goodness.
I can remember clear as day, our first loss, my husband didn't come with me. It was our very first pregnancy. I somehow got out of the clinic without crying and just being like so stoic of like, okay. And then as soon as I got in the car and like he answered, I don't think I could say anything. I just started bawling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was, I don't even remember what I said when I called him.
The worst feeling ever. Oh my goodness.
Especially since it was a tested embryo.
Yeah, absolutely. You had no reason to think that this was going to happen. And especially like once you hear that heartbeat and see the heartbeat on the ultrasound, you're like, okay, like our chance of miscarriage goes down significantly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as a tested embryo, like didn't even think it was a possibility.
So many people that are not in this community don't realize is that like, even though it is tested, like this still happens. Like people then think, well, it's genetically tested. You did IVF, like you'll have an easy like breeze through pregnancy. Everything's going to be fine. But like, no, miscarriage still happens. Like even if it's genetically tested.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause it doesn't test for every single little thing. It can't.
Yeah. Gosh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So, and then of course it was a miscarriage. You know, I'd had no clue. And so they told me, you know, okay, you know, your options are to take, you know, you could take the site attack. You can wait and see if your body will do it on its own, or you can schedule the D&C. So I chose to schedule the D&C because I was like, well, clearly my body is not going to get the memo.
Yeah.
And I just felt like mentally, I didn't want to deal with doing the site attack and miscarrying and like having it happen at home.
Yeah, I refused to schedule the D&C the first couple times. I did like a few naturally, then I did the site attack. And after the site attack experience, the next time it happened, I was like, D&C, let's schedule it today before I even leave the clinic because I want to be put out. I want to go under and be done and move on and not have to know like the impending doom of like waiting.
Honestly, if I could go back in time, I would have done I wish I would have done a D&C. Because still to this day, it happened like in a certain bathroom and I like literally would not be able to walk into that bathroom. Yeah. Like it's still triggering. So
we've moved since ours, but I told my husband, he actually asked a few months ago, he's like, what's your favorite part about living in this house? I said that I literally had 4 miscarriages in the other house and I don't have to have those memories. Sorry, off track. Okay.
Not in that space anymore.
Yeah. So you scheduled your D&C.
Yep. So we did that. And so then we're like, all right, well, we've got one more embryo. But they did, I guess, another saline sonogram just to check on, you know, post D&C, check on the uterus. I had more scar tissue.
That's what I was going to ask you because you had that trauma and that when you're scheduling this D&C, you're like, what could happen again?
I actually don't think I thought about it. I was not thinking about that at all. So when I had, and again, it wasn't like in the same spot. It was just kind of everywhere in a bunch of different places. Yeah. So they're like, well, you know, obviously we're not going to do a transfer with your uterus like this. So, went in for hysteroscopy, for them to clear it out. But then while the doctor was in there during the hysteroscopy, she told me later, that she'd found that she thinks that during the D&C, they had kind of taken out too much, like on one side. So I had kind of some damage in my uterus, that she said, I just want you to be on like estrogen for like a month to help repair it before doing another transfer. So I said, all right. And so then this was, I guess, like June, July of 21. And that kicked off a whole series. So like pretty much all of 2021 was spent trying to get my uterus in good shape.
Yeah. And I know like we're kind of speeding it up because we're at the end, but like even the like, okay, well now this is another thing that's happened and you're going to have to take even longer until we can do the transfer. I'm sure that in itself, I mean, I know it's a mental barrier of like, oh my gosh, we've been trying since 2018 and it's almost 2022.
Yeah. Yep. And then, so it was so crazy. So we spent like all of 21 trying to get my uterus into a good place. And then, so we finally get to the second transfer, February of 2022.
Wow.
And it didn't work.
Wait, what?
Wait, I did what?
Okay, Amanda and I had different information here. What?
It didn't work. It did not work. We were out of embryos. It was like, what do we do?
Well, yeah, because at this point you're like, well, we're not doing another round of IVF, right? I couldn't convince my husband otherwise.
We started thinking like, do we want to do donor eggs? Do we want to do embryo adoption? It turns out the clinic I work with, their wait list for embryo adoption was super long.
Yeah.
So we're like, well, I guess we're not doing that. So we started on the eggs and oh
my goodness.
We were just having I was having a really hard time with it. Like we went on the database and like picked out possibilities for donors and did everything. And I just like had this block where I couldn't say, go, let's do it.
Like having to grieve that process. Like I know for me, like I really had to like grieve, like, okay, we're not using like my eggs anymore. Like this is not happening. And so like that is so hard to like say, okay, yeah, we're going to move forward and no longer.
Yeah.
I mean, then it's like you're
because it felt, it felt like a failure. Mm-hmm. And logically that it's not, because it's not your fault.
Yes.
But it feels like it, been doing all this hard work, and like, what do you mean it's over? There's got to be something else I can do. So we found a therapist who specialized in fertility stuff, and we started going and we were trying to figure out what are we going to do? Because adoption is a whole other thing of, to jump into that has its own craziness.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Could take a really long time, and we'd already been doing this for a long time. And
I know, I was just counting. I mean, you're at 4 years at this point.
Yep. So we didn't know what to do. We're trying to figure this out. So we figure, well, in the meantime, let's check on my uterus, make sure the scar tissue hasn't come back again, everything's okay. So we go back to the clinic, and they can't do the saline sonogram because my pregnancy test was positive.
Yay! Oh my gosh. So natural.
Yep. So again, I don't know if I'm the only person in the world who's had like 2 surprise pregnancies.
Yeah, because oh my gosh. Okay, so you're like, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant, but then I'm sure that immediate like, okay, but what is the genetic situation?
Yeah, I feel like fear would creep in instantly.
Right. So apparently, again, and I didn't think it was even possible because I'd gotten my period after the failed transfer. But then thinking about like when it must have happened, I ovulated like a week after getting my period, which is strange timing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Alyssa, I didn't know this. I read your bio and I thought your second transfer worked.
Yeah, we just assumed the transfer worked. I did not see this coming.
Nope.
It's kind of fun being on the other side of it. Because normally we like, no.
Yes.
I actually changed the bio in my recently, wondering if anybody would notice because I have not announced it.
Oh, you had, oh yeah, I noticed that you hadn't announced it yet. And so actually, I have a family member that's pregnant and they're due in December. And I was like, okay, I was like trying to do all the math real quick.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So wait, we're in June 5th, and you found out in February.
So I found out in April.
April.
So again, I was 6 weeks pregnant before finding out.
And you're like, gosh, now I'm going to have to wait another 6 weeks to do this genetic test again.
Yes. So it was really tough. But so we found out a week ago that everything is okay.
Gosh, I'm going to cry.
So exciting. Oh, goodness. We are so excited.
Finally.
So it is a serious miracle that this kid really wants to be here.
I have chills on my entire body.
That's incredible.
So
13 weeks?
14.
Yeah.
Yay.
So the whole story was crazy. So it's a very fitting, crazy ending.
Oh,
it is. It's beautiful.
You guys find out the gender?
Not yet. So I picked up the envelope, and because, with the genetic testing, they can tell that.
Yeah.
So I had them put it in an envelope and I took it to a bakery. So my parents just, again, coincidentally are going to be here this week.
Oh my gosh.
So we're just going to have a little party with, and my sister's coming. So my sister and my parents and my in-laws, and we're just going to do a little cake. And so we're going to find out this week.
I am so thrilled for you.
That's amazing. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Such a happy ending to an extremely long journey, that's for sure. We are so excited for you.
Thank you. Yeah, we're so
I know we're gonna have to stalk your Instagram to find out if it's a boy or girl. Now I'm so invested.
Yeah, I know.
That's so fun. Oh, well, is there any advice or anything? Obviously, this is a huge journey you've been through, and then everything, with the D&E and everything you've gone through. Is there any advice that you have for someone who may be walking the same path that you went through?
I think what my biggest lesson was through everything was do your own research and be your own advocate, because the doctors don't necessarily know more than you. Yeah. Now we can go on the internet and find whatever information we want. And, especially if you have a diagnosis like I did, that the doctors don't necessarily know much about because it's not very commonly diagnosed. You definitely know more than your doctor because it's your diagnosis and it's your body.
Yeah, so you're going to focus on that. I mean, for me, I found on Instagram some girls that had 5+ miscarriages, and they're like, we did Lovenox. We had 0 diagnosis. We did Lovenox, and now they had their baby. This is my 7th pregnancy. We did the Lovenox. I can't say if it was a placebo or it worked, but I'm still pregnant,
Yeah.
And no, the physician, that was me telling the physician, hey, I found on Instagram these girls did Lovenox. He's like, okay.
Great. Well, that's where I got the Onotrope from. And my doctor was just like, sure, if you want to.
Yeah. He's like, they were like, it's not going to do any harm. I mean, it's probably not going to do anything. And it might not have, but I'm still pregnant. So,
Right. Yeah. You don't know. So it's just, you just have to do what feels right for you. And that's how I feel. And if the doctor says, well, it's not going to hurt anything, then I'm going to do it.
At it. Yeah.
Especially 4 years in. Yeah. I mean, to an extent, you're like, yeah, I'm going to try this. Well, oh my gosh. Okay. So again, it's at Fun with Fertility. I'm sure eventually you will announce on there, but I
will before this airs, I'm sure. Thank you so much. I can't believe I actually managed to squeeze all that in such a,
yes, it was amazing.
I think I've told the story enough times now.